I would have acted the shit out of that role, bro. It would have been fire.
It's that time of the year. Christmas decorations have been up since Halloween, travel plans are being made, and whether you celebrate any of the upcoming seasonal holidays or not, this tends to be a time of the year when families get together and every artist must prepare themselves for the onslaught of questions they will receive around that holiday dinner, like, well, what are you working on next? How's your acting thing going? Have you reached out to Tyler Perry? My name is Hassiem Muhammad, and you are listening to The Actor's Instrument, where we discuss the essential qualities you need to stand out in the entertainment industry. Joining me today for a conversation about dining table talk is Macbeth on Broadway's Lizzy Brooks. Lizzy is known for her roles in Hulu's The Storied Life of A.J. Fikri, Macbeth on Broadway starring Daniel Craig and Ruth Negga, Hostages on CBS, as well as many, many regional productions around the country. Lizzy, thank you for joining me.
Happy to be here. Yeah.
Woo! Finally got you on the show.
I know, it's so exciting. We talk about it all the time.
For the listeners out there, Lizzy and I met on a contract. It was 2020. Oh, this was like the first job post
Yeah,
pandemic.
I think it was 2021 because we were coming out of the pandemic.
You're right, 21. It was fall of
Yeah,
21. Yeah, right when theaters began production again and everything.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, so like that kind of started our friendship. And then I also started this like acting club here in New York where we
Mhm.
meet up weekly just to work on the craft. And Lizzie's a part of that as well. So we have lots of conversations about the industry off camera. And so today we're bringing it on camera on mic.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Before we dive into all the holiday talk, you just closed a show this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I just finished playing Lizzie Bennett in Kate Himmel's Pride and Prejudice at Baltimore Center Stage. So which you got to see, which was so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Hassiem keep it all the way up there, which I appreciate.
Of course.
Um, but yeah, yeah, it was a great play. The cast is amazing, and it's a role that like I have loved since I was 13. Like Pride and Prejudice is my favorite book. I still have the version that I got when I was 13, and with like my little bookmarks and everything in there. Um, and so just to be able to play Lizzie Bennett as Lizzie Brooks was just really nice. It was just amazing. It's just one of those roles I always love. So I'm glad I got to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was funny because my wife and I got to go see you, and we're watching it, and they're like, "Lizzy, Lizzy," and I'm like, wow, that's her name. That's pretty cool." It's like you clearly were meant to do this one.
Well, and what's funny is there's a part where Mr. Collins is proposing to Lizzie Bennett, and he goes, "Will you Elizabeth Marie Bennett?" And she goes, "Not my middle name, but actually Marie is my middle name. So my name is Elizabeth Marie Brooks." So every time I had to say not my middle name, that's actually my middle name. I was like, I got the most generic 90s name, but it was great.
But
I loved it.
also, like, what are the odds?
What
Like,
are the odds?
that's
I know.
crazy
I
and
know. So
awesome.
fun.
Like, that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
I also know from what you told me that so this was a co-pro between
Mhm.
Kansas City Rep, yeah?
Arkansas. Arkansas
Arkansas
rep.
Arkansas Rep, thank you.
Yeah.
Somewhere south. Um,
One of them.
Lord, I'm dropping stuff over here.
Uh-oh.
Arkansas this is a co-pro between Arkansas Rep and Baltimore Center Stage, and you joined after the first leg, so the show was it had already been directed and staged,
Yeah.
and you hopped on a moving train. What was that like?
It was fun, it was good, it was intense. My friend Maddie Barker did it in Arkansas, and then she booked something else, and so, I got a call that was like, "Hey, do you wanna do this? It's gonna be Fast and Furious." And I honestly, I was like and Maddie had t me she and I had talked on the phone about it even before, I got the call, but, you know, I realized I felt like it was a process that I had been in preparation for because of everything else I had done before. So yes, it was fast, and yes, it's like this heightened language in a dialect, and like it's comedy, and you have to be like, free or I feel like in comedy, so you can just generate more, see what sticks. I felt like, oh, because of all of the things that I've done, all the theater, all the grad schools, all the clown work, all those things, auditions that, like, you get a day before and you have to memorize so fast, like, I feel like, that helped prepare me to be able to step in, and honestly, I did my, it felt I did the understudy for Mackers, on Broadway. That was insane. So this felt actually very I had to memorize 5 different 8 different characters with no help,
Good
just the other
God.
understudies and us, like, in the basement of the Longacre Theater just being like, "Out, damn, SWAT out," like, it was insane, fun, but I feel like everything had prepared me for this, so yeah, it was great. I had a great time, got to hang out, journal, self-care, go to the gym. It was
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what's up. Well, I love to hear that because I feel like so much we don't necessarily feel like all of the work is paying off.
Yeah.
Like, the experience of being an actor can often be thankless. You know, we
Yes.
we prep for who knows how long for an audition. You go in, you give it your all, and you may only get a "Thanks for coming in,"
Yeah.
and then it's
That's
like,
it.
"Peace," and you're like, "Well, didn't book that," or
Okay, bye.
right, like, dang, like, I can't even get a call back. You know what I'm
Like,
saying?
come on,
Like,
bro. Like, you can't give me nothing.
okay,
Just
a
tell
little
me I'm
something,
good.
some
Just
a little
yeah.
a little compliment. Um,
Yeah, like, tell me you like my shirt today. I thought about it a lot.
yep, so
Come on.
it's often thankless. People don't see
Yeah.
the literal hundreds of auditions that we've been on, and so it's just great to hear that, like, you feel like the work paid off.
Yeah, this is something my friends and I in grad school were talking about. It's like the strides happen in the little moments. I've always felt personally felt that the secret is actually just doing the little things, and then eventually you'll look up and be like, "Oh, I was back there, and now I'm over here." So n it's just like, "Oh, if I'm gonna work hard," like, and you probably won't hear back from whatever audition that you just and it's so frustrating and it's so disheartening. But I'm like, "Oh, but this audition was for a guest star on a major show, and it was for, a really nice meaty thing," versus, like, the auditions that I was doing maybe 6 months ago weren't as meaty. Maybe they were, 5 line or whatever. And so just tracking those sort of wins, like, I think if you are dedicated in the small things, you start taking steps without realizing that you're taking steps. So when the opportunities are presented to you, you're like, "Oh, I know this. It feels familiar." It won't be completely I won't know everything, of course, because 'cause I've never done it before. But I trust myself to figure it out, and I know that I'm, smart enough or capable of, resourceful, of good community, whatever you wanna lean on, but I feel like it's building up that self-confidence through doing, and it's in the small things. It's not the big ones when you get the big opportunity, you get the big call. No, I feel confident when I get the big call because I've done it. I've done 13 auditions in my bedroom and learned how to, what kind of scene this is or what they're looking for, like I feel like it's that, which always is helpful on this long marathon or journey. Most people, we just gotta stick in it, you stick with it, but that's how I feel about when I get something like, a call to be like, "Come do a lead role in Pride and Prejudice, go." I feel like, "Okay, it's tough," and then I figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
I'd love to dive a little deeper into that. Like, are there, like, practical tips that you could give to folks who are listening who may have to do something similar? Because I feel like this isn't the first time you've had to do a replacement for somebody, and I feel like
Mhm.
that's, its own experience.
Yeah, yeah. I did my craziest one was Macbeth and Stride for Whitney White. So, I was the understudy there, at Philadelphia Shakespeare Theater and then Shakespeare Theater DC, I think it was. Um, and I personally am like, prep is key. Like, I feel my most confident when I'm fully prepared, and of course, you're not gonna be off book because that's crazy, that's nuts. But I have to go through, like, a 2 or 3 week period or, like, however long I have of just pure chaos, like, where I'm just like, I've never learned anything in my life. Everything is terrible, like, just throwing stuff against the wall, and then it settles. But that's my process. So I think preparation is key. I feel the most prepared. I mean, I feel the most confident when I'm prepared. So that's like learning the lines or just like talking with someone or doing the research or whatever it is. Like, I think I love to be off book as soon as possible, but it needs to be rooted in something. I'm not a memorizer that can just sit there and memorize. Like, I need to, like, sit there and figure out what the story is and really take it apart. And so that requires me to just lock myself in a room sometimes or, like, go for a walk and, like, run the lines that way, whatever your process is. But, yeah, I would say prep is my biggest tip, for jumping in when you just don't have the time.
Heard, heard.
Yeah.
And where for your stage in your career, you did undergrad at Columbia, got your MFA from Brown, Trinity Rep. You've gotten your first Broadway contract, and how do you navigate going from the career highs? I'm not going to call them lows. That's not fair, and I don't want to discredit the work. But how do you go from certain career highs to having to adjust to work that isn't as, how'd you say, like, as glitz and glam? It's like, oh, like, boom, like, I do this guest star on TV, boom, and then you go do an 8-week contract at name the regional theater.
Yeah.
How do you find you're navigating that at this point in your career?
Um, I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to answer that. I think just because, I guess I'm saying no more. So I'm not doing a lot of things that like are horrible where so even if I like I feel like I've paid my dues. Like I did it like
Mhm.
no shade, no tea, but like I got my equity card doing a children's theater, and we'd get in the van and like put all the stuff and we drive through the South and and it was so fun and also so gritty. And we just pack everything. So I feel like at this point, and I probably still have stripes to pay, but like I feel like I'm not doing anything that's like absolutely terrible, and like so even if it is, I enjoy the acting. I enjoy the storytelling. And I try to hold on to what I find fun rather than, of course, everybody wants to have upward mobility and keep moving up. But I'm also like, at this point, I'm like, okay, if I can say no to things, so I don't have to do, $100 a week at a regional theater, like that's just not where I am anymore. Um, that's like, yeah, I think my children's tour was like $500 a week. And then so we got like 325 every week. I was like,
Oh. Oh.
while moving everything. But yeah, I think, I try to lean into that rather because I enjoy the art, I enjoy the storytelling, I enjoy the people, I enjoy what I do, I love being an actor. It's tough, but I everything's tough, right? Like, you're not everybody's boss is gonna be something. I'd rather be doing something I love, and I love the people I meet, and I love how I feel, and I love being connected to humanity and storytelling. And so if I do get the chance to tell something, I I lean into the good of it because I feel very lucky that I get to do it. And I hope that I will continue to be able to do it and people will continue to ask me to do things because I love it. It does get hard. It gets hard for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta pack up your life for, 8 to
Yeah.
12 weeks. You fly out to name the city. I mean, when we were in Alabama, which I know we all loved that
Yeah,
contract, first of all. It was like
it was.
the perfect job right out of the pandemic. It was a one-act show, but we still got, like, the full Lord rate.
Yes,
So we still got the full pay, but we
exactly.
were only rehearsing about half the time.
We got to
Um,
play spades at night.
right? We
It was
played
just so
spades,
fun
right? But
every night.
but also we was in Montgomery, Alabama, and there just wasn't, it's like not only are you not home, but you're also in, like, this, you know it's not Birmingham. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it's a historic city, it has a lot of history, but there's not much there, and
yeah.
so I totally feel you on that front. I feel like when my agents call me for auditions now, because I'm very clear about communicating the kind of work that I want to be doing at a certain
Mhm.
time. And so sometimes they'll call me and they'll be like, "Hey, you're probably not even interested in this, but we're gonna run it by you." Which I do
Mm,
appreciate.
mhm.
Um, my agent called me last week. He was like, "Hey, I have an audition for you." He was like, "I think I'm gonna have to talk you into it." But,
Yeah.
um, and he explained the project, and I was like, "Oh, this is right up my alley. Let's go."
Yeah.
So similar to what you were saying, like, if the work is exciting, at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. It's like we love to do the
Yeah.
work, and like you said, like, to do Pride and Prejudice, a show that you know, a book that you and a story that you grew up,
Yeah.
admiring, and then, I mean, she got your name. It's yeah, kind of a
I
no-brainer.
know. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and, I had a friend one time tell me, she was like, "It's either for the people, the pay, or the plot." And so that's been really helpful. If it's like you wanna work with someone that you've never worked with before, that's the people. If it pays a lot, like, yes, girl, get your guest star. Or the plot, you just always wanted to tell the story. And it should have 2 at least one of those things, at least one.
Yeah,
And then 2 is ideal. And so that's really helpful for me, because, it's a l I'm sure we've all heard it. You just gotta honestly stick to the path.
yeah,
Um, and so in order to make sure that I don't feel, again, terrible, I make sure that those one of those things is that box is checked.
heard,
Um, yeah,
heard.
yeah.
No, I have a similar process. For me, it's like, it's the pay, it's will it move my career forward, or as you said, like, the plot, is this is a story that I'm crazy about and would love to tell. So, I feel you there. Now, segueing into really the meat of what I wanted to get into today, the holidays are coming up. I think this episode will release around the time of Thanksgiving, and then obviously in December, there's a bajillion different holidays depending on, who observes what and what your culture is. And I don't know, for me, it's like I so look forward to seeing my family, and not so much anymore, but I feel like there are times, I mean, it really depends on the year. It's like, how is my year gone? Because you're gonna get those questions because everybody knows, like, oh, this is the actor in the family. Um, and so I wonder, like, do you feel any, like, is there any pressure that you get from your family? Not that like they do it intentionally, but is there any anxiety around like, all right, here we go, going back home?
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, holidays, everybody feels some sort of, wind,
Yeah. And you
wind
gotta
tunnel of
and you gotta buy
yeah,
everybody presents. And
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Not so much anymore, but, I got really my family's very supportive, and they're, like, always my family came and saw Pride and Prejudice. My aunt flew up, like, they're like, they love that I love what I do. So they are, and they've learned not to ask me to when I'm gonna be on Netflix. So that kinda stopped a while ago. I had to communicate. I just don't know. I just
you
literally don't know.
you
I
used to
just
get that
don't.
s you used to get that specific question, "When are you gonna be on Netflix?"
I get used to be like, I used to ask yeah, Tyler Perry for sure. And what happens? I should move down to Atlanta. Why don't you move to Atlanta? That's where they film a bunch of stuff. And I was like, what am I gonna do in Atlanta? Like, I don't know anybody there. I don't know Tyler Perry. I'm just gonna be in Atlanta. And so, I don't know, that's how I navigated those conversations. I also think that, like, where mine more lands is like, "Oh, how was that audition? Do you know when you're gonna hear back?" I'm like, "I don't." That's just, like, that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's a tough concept for people to understand is that, like, because I'll be like, "Oh, I have this great audition," like, I got I was in final callbacks for Stereophonic on Broadway, this past one, and it's sensitive, right? Like, you get so excited, you put so much work, I had to learn the song on the piano, I hired someone to one of my old vocal coaches to, like, help me play the piano. I haven't played the piano since I was, like, 6. So I was like, "Alright," and they knew from the first audition, I was like, I got basic piano." I was like, "Girl, I'm not lying to y'all." And they're like, "It's fine, it's fine, it's fine." I think um but I put in all this effort, it was in the big room, and everybody's there, and everybody's so sweet, everybody's so kind, and then you just don't hear anything back. And but my family was so excited for it, so they, like, would be like, "Oh, so did you hear back? Oh, did you hear back?" And I'd be like, "No." And every time I think that's the hard part to navigate sometimes is when you're excited for something and I know and we all know as actors that, like, if you haven't heard back in, like, 2 to 3 days, probably it's not gonna go your way, like, usually it happens so quick. I've never had one of I've heard it happen to people where, you get, like, a call 3 months later and they're like, "Oh, we want it," but that's never happened to me. It's always been, like, the next day or something like that, or 2 days. And so if it is that way, like, if I have if it's a while, then I'm like, "Okay, I just didn't book that." But I think that's hard when people, really want to be supportive, but they just don't understand, and then you're mourning the loss, you know? I think there's a loss to, like, "Oh, I woulda I woulda tore the shit out of that role. I woulda acted
Yeah.
the shit out of that role, bro. It woulda been fire." And, of course, Rebecca Jones is amazing, and I love her. I love her. I love her. I She came to the last show that I was in, and I tried to be cool, and I wasn't. I fangirled very hard in front of her. I love
Oh.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the blessing and curse of having a super supportive family. Um, my family is very supportive of me being an actor. Like I always say, like my sisters are like my biggest fans. Um, and like one of my sisters, like some of my real footage is like from one of my sisters getting the footage for me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Stop,
yeah, from one
really?
of my TV spots. Like, she was like, just in case you didn't get it. Um,
Oh.
so, but then the challenging thing is because they do support and do kind of understand a bit about the business. For me, at least, it's like those questions can be even tougher because, like, you can kind of brush off the silly, like, well, there's one family member in particular who still asks me like about Tyler Perry in Atlanta, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
by this point, I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
no, he don't know me. I know of him. He don't know me. Um, And Atlanta's a whole other topic just in and of itself, but,
Yeah.
my uncle a couple weeks ago emailed me. He's like, "Hey, I was watching, FBI with my friend," and I go, "I think that's my nephew Hassiem." And
Aw.
he was like, "Were you in this episode?" He's old, he's my great uncle. And so I
Uh-huh.
I emailed him back. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that was me." And he was like, "Oh, great." He's like, "Yeah, he's like, "I knew it was you, da, da, da." And then he goes, so he called me about something later, and he was like, "So when are you gonna be on TV again?"
You're like,
I was like,
"Couldn't tell you."
about that." I was basically like, "I don't know." He goes, "Oh," and, like, the thing is, he genuinely didn't really kinda understand that it's not just a thing that we just do all the time,
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
that's the dream and the goal, but I was like, "I don't know," and he goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Well, I'd love to see you on TV again." And I was like, "Yeah,
Me
and
too.
I'd love to be on TV too." I was like, trust me, nobody wants it more than me." How would you recommend folks respond to the question, "What are you working on next?" Because I feel like I get that not just from family members, but, like, a lot of times other actors, I'll go to, like, holiday get-togethers and stuff that friends are hosting, and it's like, "So what are you doing next?"
Yeah. Yeah. I navigate that by saying the things that I'm working on that aren't just acting. Like, I try to be excited about a lot of things in my life, basically, because you have to, right? Like, if you only rely on your results of auditions, you're gonna be miserable. It's not gonna work out for anybody. And so you have to build your life to be something you are excited about. And so I always answer that question, like, usually, I'll try to stay busy in some way, like, "Oh, I'm, like, trying to, like, take a class," but, like, I'm excited to take an on-camera acting class just because I want to, you know? So that's what's next. Or I'm excited to, like, oh, I'm actually really excited about decorating my apartment. I try to steer it away from, like, only results based because this business is so uncontrollable, and you just never know one of the seeds that you've planted is gonna reap something or produce something, and so, like, I can't control what I can't control. So but I focus on what's next in everything. So if that's like, "Oh, I'm really excited about, like, investing more in this thing," or I'm really excited about, like, I'm gonna paint my bedroom, or something like that. That helps kind of, I don't want to say teach people, but allow people into the way you look at your art. Because I'm not just my results, right? Like, I'm more than that. Because then that takes away my agency and it takes away my artistry. If it's just like, oh, did you book the thing? I can't. That's how I feel about it. I'm like, so when people ask me, like, we were at the closing toast Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. And people go, "So what's next for you?" And I'm like, gonna go back to auditioning, and then I'm excited just to be home, and I'm excited to, like, see my family again. Like, that's what's next for me. I'm excited to, like, see my friends and, like, unpack and settle back into my house. And so that's how I answer that,
Heard. No,
'cause
and
I'm more than that. Yeah.
I love that. We are more than our bookings. You know, we're human beings who have a lot of things going on in life. But
Yeah.
I think, you know, for the listeners who are tapping into this episode, I'm sure they can all resonate with that experience. You know, I went to a recent town hall for the alumni from my school,
Mm.
and there was a big question about like why is turnout from the School of Drama so poor at these events? And something somebody brought up, they were like, everybody in this room are working actors. And you know, this is their opinion, but like maybe the folks who aren't here don't want to get asked that question about what are you working on or what are you doing next because they don't have an answer. And that's tough, especially when you're around your peers, you know, and
Yeah.
we know like we're I love that again, you said like you're always working on something, you know, whether it's an exciting audition or the work that we do with our club, you know, where you're just kind of
Yeah.
getting your hands on some material and playing. For me personally, that's a big reason why I started this podcast. There's many
Mm.
reasons. Obviously, I want to help to demystify this business first and foremost. Um, but for me personally, it gave me an opportunity to always be working on something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
at a minimum. So what are you working on? My podcast.
Exact
We're on
yeah.
episode 40 something. I'm every day, like every day of the week, I'm working on this in some
Yeah.
capacity. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, well, that's the thing, you know, I feel like you need something that is for you, and that's why that's why I said earlier, you need to build a life that is, there's what's the guy's Bryan Cranston. He was like, you go when you as soon as you start releasing the pressure off auditions and building a life that you're happy with, then things open up because you're like, "Oh, I can just play." And that comes from having something like a podcast, like a group. That's why, like, you started this group, and I was like, "Hell yeah, I wanna join," because I like to do things that are not results based. We just get to be artists, without the pressure, and you get to talk, and, we sit there sometimes and just hang out, or we work on, all these our personal things. It's just as long as I think it's so important as an artist to keep your own well full. You cannot wait for other people to fill you up. It's just because that's not everybody's job, right? Like it's literally everybody's navigating their own stuff. Everybody's thinking about their own careers, their own families, their own insecurities, their own wounds, whatever it is, their own goals. It's like you cannot wait for someone to be like, you are enough or you're important or you have to find that. And you find that by doing. So you have your podcast and you're like, you know what? Hell yeah, I'm on episode 46, 47 of this. I did this, I'm writing a play. I think about my play all of the time. I think of those characters all of the time. And it's just nice to be like, oh, that's my little thing. And, I'm not, like, fully done with it, cause girl, I need to get it
but
together. But, yeah.
it is important to have those things, like Bryan Cranston said, that
Yeah.
you can go back to, that you can continually work on. Um, how do you I'm not sure, you know, you said you're in a more selective part of your career where maybe you're saying no to some more things. Do the holidays affect that decision making at all? You know, because the thing about our business, the show must go on. And so
Uh-huh.
typically, you know, we don't get sweeping amounts of time off for the holidays. Like if you're on a contract that overlaps with
Yeah.
Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, typically, you know, you may get like a day or two off in there. Um,
Yeah.
is that something that you consider at all when you're looking at projects?
I do. I missed Christmas once, and it was terrible. And it
Mm.
was for the children's store, actually. That's funny. Yeah, it was
And you didn't make any
uh,
money.
no
Ah.
money. It was literally $200, $300 a week after everybody got their hands on like, literally just ridiculous. Um, but had to do it, right? I got my equity card, so you gotta pay your dues. But yeah, that was the first and only time I missed Christmas. And Christmas for my family is like a big deal. Like we do Thanksgiving over here, and then we all go back home to California. But it was just I was like sitting there in my bed by myself, and I was like, I hate this. Nothing is worse. I was like, my family, all of my family is together. I know where they are. They're in their matching pajamas right now, and I'm alone drinking peppermint schnapps, and I hate this. I hate this so much. So now I go, I like to be around for big. I know you mentioned you missed your sister's wedding, right?
Yeah, and that one, I wasn't even getting paid. I was still in school, but
Dang, hard. That's tough, bro.
it's I look, you know me, like, I don't really have a lot of regrets. I'm very intentional with all the choices I make in life, but that's one of them. And for those who haven't heard the story yet, I'll make it short, but I was in college. We are doing a production of Arms and the Man, which that was a tough show. Anywho, my sister was getting married our second day of tech, and I went to my entire cast and crew and I said, "Hey guys, my sister's getting married." I live like 3 hours away from where I went to school. So I was like, I'm just gonna drive, like, I just need to miss like that one day. I'll drive out like the morning of or whatever. I'll come back the same night." And they were all like, "Oh my God, Hassiem, like go. Like, what are you talking about?" And so I was like, "Okay, cool." So I know I'm not gonna like mess up with anybody's flow. So then I went to my professor and the dean of the art school, and I was like, presented the same situation. And I said, "Hey, my sister's getting married. I just need to miss this one day of tech. Can I?" I got a little back and forth. Like one was like, "Oh, you have to ask the other." The director was like, "Oh, you have to ask the dean." The dean was like, "You have to ask the director." And basically at the end of the day, they were like, "No, you can't. You have to be here." And I said, "Okay. Hassiem today, I'll see
Bye.
y'all. Let me know what y'all figure out. Cause I won't be here. I'm a
Like,
I'm gonna
my
be back."
shadow would be there. Yeah, no way.
You know?
Yeah, but you have
And
to learn that. That's the thing, that's not a thing that happens automatically. As, like,
no.
humans, you have to learn to be like, "Oh, what's important to me?" And usually it's because something shitty happened that you go, "Oh, I
Yeah.
don't like this feeling. I never wanna feel that again."
Yeah.
And so that's how
Yeah, and we're
what we're
we're
gonna
not
say.
no, I'm just gonna say, like, we're not told that we have that agency, but we absolutely do. Like,
Yes.
at the end of the day, the show needs you. So,
Mhm.
if you book a contract and you know you have something important coming up, let them know before you sign, "Hey, I have this conflict on my schedule. Can we accommodate?" I had one. I was in discussion to book a project last year, and I was like, "I'm getting married," during the contract. I was like, "So, Imma for sure need that weekend off." And they were like they're like, "Yeah, that's no problem." I was like, "Well," and then we're going on our honeymoon for a week. And they're like, "Oh, we can't accommodate the honeymoon." And I was like, "Thanks, but no thanks."
Yeah,
And,
I'm
like,
okay.
this is a director who I've gotten so close to working with before, and, it was
Yeah,
like, "Oh, maybe this could be that opportunity." But you have to, and ultimately, it's like you have to, what's valuable to you? You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
Like, for some people, okay, you'll give me the weekend for the wedding, we can reschedule the honeymoon, no big deal. For me, I
Yeah,
was like, I just thought, if we push it back, then something else is gonna happen, and then something else. So I was like, "Nope, we're
yeah,
gonna we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna say no to this one."
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I know I just love that you have decided for yourself, this is an important time of the year, and I'm not doing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite holiday movie or show?
Do I have a favorite holiday movie or show?
Putting you on the spot.
I know. I really love it really depends, to be honest. My family and I watch The Muppet Christmas Carol every Christmas, and then we watch, Zoolander and Elf. That's, like, our family traditions, we'll watch those. I really love The Holiday with Kate Winslet and Jack Black, and you ever saw it?
I haven't.
It's so good. It's so
Okay.
good.
Okay, I'm
And
about to check it
Cameron
out.
Diaz and Jude Law, like, it's just so good. I love that movie.
Heard.
Yeah, yeah, I would say those. What's yours?
So, I've never celebrated Christmas. It's just
Mhm.
not my family's, not in our culture and practice. But when I was a kid, I loved A Christmas Story.
Oh,
I
a good
love
one.
when he would lick the pole, his tongue got stuck. Like,
Yeah.
love A Christmas Story. And then probably my all-time favorite is Home Alone 3.
Oh, wow.
Easy.
I don't think I've seen the 3. I've never seen the 3rd one.
It's so good. I've seen it too many times.
That's
Like,
so funny.
maybe an unhealthy amount of times we would watch it as kids. And a little nugget for those who are listening, I've actually got an upcoming guest from that film coming onto the
Oh my
show.
god. Wait, who?
Yeah. Oh, you gotta wait to find out. You gotta wait to find out. But yeah, so stay tuned, stay tuned. But that, yeah, truly my favorite film. We used to set booby traps around the house to like reenact moments from the movie and stuff. So yeah,
That's so funny.
yeah, yeah. All right, Lizzie, final question for you. This show is called The Actor's Instrument. So I want to know, what is the defining quality that sets you apart as an actor?
Hmm.
What makes
I
Lizzie Brooks special?
Yeah, I say, you know what? I feel like there's always going to be someone that's like taller, prettier, smarter, blah blah blah. Like that's just how the world is. But I work very hard. I will outwork a lot of people. And that I can bank on. I think Will Smith has said a very similar thing. Like I like to work, and I will do the work, so that's what sets me apart, and that's where my confidence comes from. Because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, I'll work I'll outwork ya. I'll be in the studio, Imma memorize it, don't play with me," you know, yeah, so that and with that, because that allows me to be freer in my art and deep dive into all these other things, but I think that sets me apart as an actor, is that I just work really hard, and it's not for anybody else. I think I also am really good at being like, "Nope, this is my journey. I'm working on this." And I think that helps me be better and more open when I'm not looking left and right and being like, "Oh, well, she booked that." And, I'm not interested in that. It's only for myself and where I am. And I also think that like, with that, it allows me to cheer other people on because I'm not comparing myself because it could be so scarce. Um, but I think that yeah, like, I'll outwork ya. Let's do it. Let's have a competition about that. I'm competitive, man,
Okay,
so
challenge accepted. Challenge
Yeah,
accepted.
yeah, that's what I would say.
I love it. It's so true about you. I remember we went on that hike in Alabama, and and you and I were like so far ahead of everybody. And I remember we stopped at one point, and you're like, "Yeah, I haven't been hiking a long time, but I wasn't gonna let you beat me." I was
And I almost passed out. I literally almost passed out. I actually sat down and was like, I was like, "Keep it together."
I'm
But it was
crying.
fun.
I'm
It
crying.
was
It
fun.
wasn't even a race, but no,
Yeah.
you're being honest right now. Um,
I am.
L-
Yeah.
Lizzie, thank you so much for making time to chat today. I know you just
Mm.
got back to town and probably still haven't even unpacked. So,
No, yeah.
um, thank you for coming on to the show. Folks at home, if you enjoyed this conversation with Lizzie, then you're going to love the down to earth conversation I had with HBO's Demaya Gurley. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And that's it for today. Big thanks to all of our listeners for tapping into this episode of The Actor's Instrument. If you're streaming, give us a follow. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a beat. I'm Hassiem Muhammad. We'll be back next Tuesday. Till next time, y'all. Peace. Thank you for listening to The Actor's Instrument. I'm Hassiem Muhammad, and you can follow me at Hassiem Muhammad and the show at Actors Instrument Podcast on all social media platforms. The Actors Instrument is a presentation of Red Letter Entertainment. Executive producers Adam Jellicourse, Serena Esposito, and yours truly. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and check us out at theactorsinstrument.com. We'll be back next Tuesday. Till next time, y'all. Peace. I'm crying.